Ha guys, let's get more news about Warriors, but first don't forget to subscribe and leave your like. Pistons vs Warriors final score: Detroit a step slow, sloppy and lost to Golden State. The Detroit Pistons were a step slow and discombobulated on both ends of the floor for the first 80% of the game. Cade Cunningham decided to take over in the fourth quarter, giving his team a chance to tie it on the last possession, but a Malik Beasley three was off the mark and Detroit fell 107-104. The loss breaks Detroit's 5-game winning streak. Cunningham had a quiet 3 quarters but powered a 22-6 run in a 5-minute stretch of the fourth quarter to give the Pistons a chance. Cunningham, who finished with 32 points, scored 12 points and assisted on a Jalen during basket in the span. He even used some heroics at the line, trying to will his team to victory with his team down 3 and 4.1 seconds to play. Cunningham purposely missed his second free throw, which nicked the rim, bounced hard off the backboard and went direct back to Cade. Cade swung the ball to Simone Fonio, who was leaking to the corner for what would have been a widely open 3-point attempt to tie, except that the officials whistled Cunningham for illegal touching, thinking the ball never hit the rim. A challenge gave Detroit the ball back, but they now had to do it against a set Warriors defense without the element of surprise. Beasley got a good look, but they couldn't complete the miracle comeback. Honestly, the Pistons were lucky to be in the game at all. They trailed by as many as 18 multiple times and rarely looked good on offense or defense. Playing on the second night of back-to-back, Detroit was a step slow to every loose ball, and the Warriors used a patient passing attack to meticulously get to open spots on the floor. There were a couple of stats emblematic of the game. The Warriors bested the Pistons 21-6 in second chance points thanks to better focus, effort and execution by Golden State. The second stat is Steph Curry's 5 of 21 showing from the field, including G2 of 14 from deep. If Curry has a better than awful shooting night, the Warriors would have been up by 30 instead of 18 in the fourth quarter, and the Pistons never even sniff a comeback. Beasley 21, Tobias Harris 13 and Ron Holland 11 were the only other Pistons in double figures. The Warriors were led by 19 from Buddy Hield and got 7 threes off the bench from Gus Santos and Lindy Waters off the bench. The Pistons will get a brief rest before hosting the Toronto Raptors on Saturday, hoping to start a new winning streak. Warriors coach loses childhood home in Palisades fire over 5,000 structures have been destroyed in the Pacific Palisades fire this week. One of them was the house where Golden State Warriors coach Steve Kerr grew up. The coach's 90-year-old mother and Kerr evacuated successfully from the home the Kerr family had owned since 1969, when Kerr was 4 years old, though Kent much of his childhood living in Lebanon and other places in the Middle East. The Palisades remained the family home, and Kay starred at Palisades High School. He visited the house to have dinner with his mother as recently as December 26. It's a lifetime of memories and occasions, birthday parties and everything else, Her told reporters before Thursday's game in Detroit. To see the destruction, the devastation, it's just unfathomable. Kay's mother made it out safely and even taught a class at UCLA Wednesday, but the destruction in the family's neighborhood is shocking. The fires, aided by Santa Ana winds that reached speeds of 100 miles per hour, tore through the area, taking out entire neighborhoods. That's my hometown, said Kerr. All of my friends who are from the pretty much all of them lost their family homes, their childhood homes. The town looks like it's completely wiped out. It's surreal and devastating. Her wasn't the only member of the Warriors organization to suffer a loss. Everett Dayton, a video coordinator in player development, also lost his family home. In addition, Los Angeles Lakers coach J.J. Redick lost his rental home in the Palisades. Thankfully, the NBA postponed tonight's planned game between the Lakers and the Charlotte Hornets tonight to help those affected by the wildfires. Here are some resources. Warriors finally get a scorer by sending Jonathan Kuminga to Nets in new mock trade. The Golden State Warriors need to fix their glaring roster holes, as their 12-3 start to the season has completely unraveled. They are 18-18 now and don't look like playoff favorites in the competitive West. They have the assets to change the face of this team, but have deliberately been waiting for the right trade to come their way with another potential PL Playoff miss on the horizon. The time for waiting should be over. The Brooklyn Nets have made their best players available, with the Warriors already agreeing on a deal for Dennis Schroeder. Earlier this season they chose not to acquire Cam Johnson in that deal because they didn't want to part with Jonathan Kuminga. They then proceeded to bench Kuminga until he picked up an injury, making his future with the franchise even more uncertain. Instead of waiting to fall into a hole they can't climb out of, the Warriors can make a bold move to fix it now. This deal brings Johnson's efficient wing scoring to Golden State to be a smoother complement to Andrew Wiggins and Draymond Green. The biggest help here is for Stephen Curry, who has another major offensive option to support the scoring load in a year where no one else has stepped up. The Nets land a young star with a potentially high ceiling. What are the Golden State Warriors waiting for? Does the record need to worsen to 5 games under 0-5 before they realize they need to make a move immediately? Outside the 2022 championship, the Warriors have missed the playoffs twice and were a second-round exit in the last 4 seasons. They're in danger of this officially being back-to-back seasons outside the playoffs. With a healthy Stephen Curry, Cam Johnson is averaging 19.5 points, 4.3 rebounds and 3.0 assists this season. His offensive portability has been one of his biggest strengths as he seemingly adjusts to every role in the offense. This season he's shown he can be a capable number 1 option and an excellent second option while always being a scoring threat on the court. He draws attention and plays with high IQ, a perfect fit for Steve Kerr's motion offense in Golden State. They've made it clear that they don't want to acquire Jimmy Butler, but they have to do something. Instead of taking a high-risk plunge on a star who they have to overpay to retain, they're getting Johnson under a long-term and affordable contract. It also leaves them room to make another star trade with plenty of draft assets and movable stars. The Brooklyn Nets are openly rebuilding. Although their veterans have been fiercely competitive on the court, their 13-24 record already gives them a lot of ground to cover on other tanking teams. Making an on-top 3 pick in the 2025 draft a glaring reality, while they'll still add a star and potentially have another lottery pick with the Phoenix Suns. They can acquire a young star right now with a high ceiling. Jonathan Kuminga is averaging 16.8 points and 5.0 rebounds this season. He's expected to be out with injury for the rest of the month, but the Nets could acquire him to start integrating him into the roster for next season and beyond. Kuminga is on an expiring contract, so the Nets have full latitude on whether they want to extend him or let him go, as they get strong assets outside of the 22-year-old forward as well. Gary Payton too is a lockdown defender who would be a short-term addition, averaging 4.6 points and 2.8 rebounds this season. Kevin Looney is averaging 5.0 points and 6.7 rebounds, potentially serving as a solid veteran leader for the young Nets locker room. He knows the ins and outs of a championship dynasty, so his presence could be greatly beneficial. Kuminga is a very productive player for his age and has a high ceiling. The Nets have the space to cater to his needs and facilitate the growth that made him a top 10 pick in the 2021 NBA draft. And you fan, what do you think of the situation of Jonathan Sigan? Leave your opinion in the comments.